Welcome back, everyone, to the Foresight Presents Putts and Pints. I'm your host, Colin O'Brien, bringing you golf news and notes from around the globe, all whilst having a nice, tasty beer. Today's episode, we have the beer of choice is Monty Python's Holy Ail. That's brought to you by the Black Sheep Brewery. This is one of my favorite, I guess you would call it, comical beers. And I've actually been to the Black Sheep Brewery, and its former namesake, the Theakston Brewery, over in Masham, North Yorkshire, England. The quick little story about that: it was in the late 1800s, about 1890, the Theakston family starts a brewery, and it stays in the family for 100 years, roughly. And then all of a sudden, they get bought out, and the namesake patriarch at the time, Paul Theakston, he takes a little bit of a break. There was a lot of family controversy over the sale of the brewery and all that, and then he opens up down the road. He buys a malting facility and opens up Black Sheep Brewery. It was initially just called the Sheep Brewery, I believe, but then he turned it into Black Sheep Brewery. That's how that all goes. You kind of you get dejected and you leave the family business and you just go off on your own, and there you are, Black Sheep Brewery. But like I said, they make Monty Python's, amongst others, they make Monty Python's Holy Ale, and the tagline being one of my favorite things of all time: tempered over burning witches. So back to golf. This was the first full week that we had of the 2015 season, if you want to call it that. And so we had, on the European Tour, they were over at the HSBC in Abu Dhabi, and then the Sony Open in Hawaii on the PGA Tour. So we'll start over in Abu Dhabi, because that one happened by time, as happening a little bit earlier. Martin Kaymer takes a 6-shot lead into the final round. He's standing on the 6th tee, and he's now increased that lead to 10 strokes. He ends up losing by 2 to Gary Stahl, who shot a 65. Kaymer's collapse basically starts on that 6th hole. He takes a bogey. It was the first time he had a bogey since Thursday, since the opening round. And then that led to just sort of a train wreck over the next 8 holes, where he had another bogey, a double thrown in there, and also a nasty triple bogey on the 13th hole, where he hit a drive into a bush. He had to kind of pitch out after taking his drop and his penalty stroke. He's 30, 40 yards off the green, and ends up just basically chili dipping one, and 3 putts later, he's looking at, or 2 putts later, excuse me, he's looking at a triple bogey. So that ends his run at it. McIlroy had a great week as far as anything that happened to him before and after Saturday. Saturday he got around in 1 under, but it was a miserable putting day, and he ends up finishing 1 stroke off the lead in solo second. But he had a hole in one on Friday, and followed that up with a 66 on Sunday. That 1 under par 71 was kind of his undoing on day 3. He really could have taken control of that tournament with Kaymer's collapse happening. And then Gary Stahl ends up closing with 65, beats McIlroy by 1. He made, just a bunch of birdies, dropped in some putts, and that was that. And then let Kaymer just keep falling further and further by the wayside. So congratulations to Gary Stahl. He's a young guy, 22 years old. I don't know much about him, if anything. All they said was he was, ranked about 350th in the world. So a nice first win for him. That's a big tournament to get. Nice payday. And so there you go. And then before we get off of that subject, the a quick note about the hole in one situation from the tournament. There were a few, but a couple of notables from a couple of my favorites there. I mentioned the one Rory McIlroy had on Friday, and that was his first professional hole in one actually in competition. So congratulations to him on that. And then the mechanic, Miguel Angel Jimenez, the most interesting man in the world. He got a hole in one on Thursday. Did a little dance. You might have seen the video, might have not. Check it out. It's him just being him. What else can you say? He is truly the most interesting man in the world. So I'll raise my Monty Python and the Holy Ale up to the two of them for their aces, and everybody else who had one. Congratulations. Cheers, guys. So moving on to the Sony Open in Hawaii. Right now, they still have not completed that. I'm recording this on Sunday afternoon, so they still have not completed play. But the biggest story coming out of there right now is Robert Allenby being apparently kidnapped and then beaten and robbed and dumped in a park about 6 miles away from his hotel on Friday night after missing the cut. When you miss a cut, that kind of sucks already. And then to have this happen, it was like, what the hell is going on here? So apparently, as the story goes, he's in a wine bar not too far from the hotel. He's there with his caddy. He pays the bill, or they pay the bill at around 10:45 that night. And then his caddy goes to the bathroom, and while he's in the bathroom, before they're getting ready to leave, all of a sudden, a couple of guys grab Allenby, throw him in a van or something like that, and take off. And the next thing you know, he knows is he's dumped in a park, and he gets found by an ex-military guy, I guess. But he said he had a conversation with what seemed to be a homeless woman in there who said there was a couple of guys that basically just threw him out of the car or the vehicle and tossed him out onto the road. And his face gets pretty beaten up from that. He gets the scrapes over his eyes and such, and on his cheeks. And he's got a photo of that he posted. He's pretty beat up, and so I can't figure this one out at all. It's like this is about as random as it gets. There's nothing an Australian golfer would have. There's nobody on the islands that would be in Hawaii that would be really looking to take this guy for everything he was worth and then dump his body in a park somewhere. I don't know. It's like, not to be crude about this, but it's like, isn't golf hard enough? And you miss the cut, and that sucks enough, and then this happens. Like, what's going on here? So, I don't know if Allenby's ever going to come back to Hawaii. If he qualifies for this, he continues to qualify for this tournament. But I would have to hesitate before I jumped in there. And so I don't know what else to say about that. It's one of the most bizarre things I've ever heard when it comes to golf. It's like, I thought last year actually Dustin Johnson being suspended or not suspended, depending on who you're talking to, whether or not he was taking a leave of absence or what he was doing. And that there was suspected cocaine usage, and it's like cocaine and golf, like, whatever your drug of choice is, I'm not here to argue with you, but, whatever's going on there. But I just never figured cocaine and golf ever mixing it up, as far as, especially on the professional level. I don't know what that was all about or what was true and what's not. They've really kept all that under wraps, but that was one of the more bizarre things that I ever heard when it came to in recent memory. And then obviously we could point to Tiger Woods and the 3-iron and his wife and the ramming the car into the tree right next to his driveway and all that sort of stuff. But in the end, I can't recall anything close to this as far as like how how random and obscure this whole thing is. You know, and that may just be because it is so random and and obscure. So what else? What else are you gonna do? And then finally today, we're going to talk about there's big doings in the NFL. So we got to talk about it. We'll just say a lot of guys in their off time, professionals in football and other sports and pretty much every other sport, in their off time and off seasons. It's well noted that they play a lot of golf. So a bunch of them do at least. So we'll tie that in. That'll be our tie-in here for the NFC Championship and AFC Championship games that are taking place today. The NFC Championship game. We'll start with that one. We have Seattle versus the visiting Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers has his calf injury thing. A lot of question marks. He didn't throw at Richard Sherman the first time around the opening game of the season. Not once did he throw Richard Sherman's way. You're playing in Seattle, the 12th man. It's probably going to be windy, rainy, just not a great day overall. So if I'm looking at this one, I don't see the Packers coming out of this one and going to the Super Bowl. I can't find a way that this happens. I don't think they have the running game to really pose that as a threat. Like if we have to rely on this for the majority of the time to control the ball, all that sort of stuff. Eddie Lacy got 100 yards plus against the Cowboys in the divisional playoff game, but I can't see going up against that Seattle defense in Seattle where Eddie Lacy's going to have. I'll call it right now. I'm calling him for 75 yards and under. In that game. So that's not going to be enough clock management for them. I don't see, as great as Aaron Rodgers is, and I think I'm one of the ones that thinks he's the best quarterback in football. I love the way he, first of all, just throws the ball. I mean, just the physical act, the way the ball comes out, the line that it's on, the trajectory, the spiral that he's got, the pinpoint accuracy. I don't think anybody has that combination of reading defenses and then the actual physical skills. I think he's head and shoulders above anybody else in the league right now. The guys who are the stalwarts that we'll get to Tom Brady in a second, and at the Peyton Mannings of the world, that sort of thing. They Drew Brees, I guess you throw into the conversation as well. As far as the veterans are concerned, they are much more. They all seem to be much more relying on their smarts right now because they have to. And I would rank Aaron Rodgers up there with any of those guys in the headspace department, and then you throw on the physical skills as well. And he's just the premier quarterback in the league right now, hands down. But that being said, he is a little dinged up right now. So I can't see them. I can't see the Packers, that is, coming out of this with anything more than maybe a close game. But I don't see them ever controlling this game at all. And eventually Seattle moving on to Arizona for the Super Bowl. And then on the other side of the country there, we've got the AFC Championship game, and so you've got the New England Patriots. They're hosting the Indianapolis Colts, and so now we've got Andrew Luck versus Tom Brady. We have Colts and Patriots again, a Manning-less Colts, but that seems to be working out all right for them right now. They've moved on farther than Manning did this year, and so now we're looking at these two teams for starters. Belichick and Brady. I was listening to the radio the other day, and I won't say who it was, but they asked, of the four teams left, who has the best head coach quarterback combo? And the announcer's response was McCarthy